Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive, the Growave podcast. I'm your host, Joe Fox, president at Growave, and today I'm joined by a really good friend of mine, a very good human being, and someone in this industry that I have a lot of time for. So I'm going to introduce Marcus. Now, Marcus has a very strong background in partnerships in agency as well as tech. But he also manages to do a lot of partnerships consulting as well as manage his own and grow his own agency, Perfect Evolution. So, Marcus, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, just for the audience, we have a mix of, merchants, other agency partners, tech partners, and the like. Are you able to give a little bit of a detail around your background and then dive into Perfect Evolution and what you guys do on a day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm CEO and founder of Perfect Evolution. I personally come from a design background, so I went to school for graphic design. I started doing freelance design in my senior year of high school. So I was playing in bands. I play drums, so I was playing in bands and doing stuff for bands, and that's sort of where Perfect Evolution came out of. So now we're a small but mighty team helping Shopify merchants scale. We do everything from design, development, and CRO, and we tend to keep it focused on that. We used to do branding, we used to do some other services, but we tend to keep it super hyper focused on that type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Marcus. And I guess being a creative, it's hard for you to not jump into some of that branding stuff. My background being agency as well, before I kind of moved into the tech space. Um, I always found that, Alibaba was a great example when we worked with them in Asia Pacific, and while we were helping them with their, kind of launch into ANZ, one of the things that we found was like, okay, so we're paid to do the creative assets like landing pages and email
Mhm,
templates and digital advertising across, Meta and Google. But
mhm.
one thing that we're not paid for is kind of like the brand identity. And because they really wanted us to focus on what was going to kind of move in the market, we really had to address some of those key critical branding points that are different from their kind of traditional audience being directly China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So it was a
Mhm.
very interesting process. But my business partner, Phil, at the time, was similar to you, he's amazing at design and everything like that. So he found it really hard to not dive
Mhm.
all into the branding. So I'm sure you have the same issue at Perfect Evolution.
Yeah, it's been a struggle, even just to be like a business owner and think about the non-creative stuff. It's been a struggle because that's one side of your brain, right? And then the other side is all like the spreadsheet and non-creative type of stuff. But as a business
Yes,
owner, you have to be well-rounded. You have to have a understanding of all that stuff, your numbers, your profit margin, all that sort of stuff. Never would have thought I would be in this position or role. Obviously, I love what I do, but yeah, I still tend to dabble in some of the design stuff, like on the sidelines, just for friends and make fun t-shirt designs and stupid stuff like that, just to keep the
absolutely.
chops up, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I think it's like, it's one of those things where you need to constantly use that side of the brain and stay
Mm.
creative. I think, fortunately, as we get older, we don't necessarily do that as much as we probably should. But I think it's one of the keys to staying youthful and energetic and excited is really exploring that creative side of the brain. Um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So tell me a little bit more, about Perfect Evolution. Like, who is your ICP? What's a recent project that you've worked on,
Mhm.
to help merchants grow? Like, what is some of the things that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so we tend to work with a lot of the Shopify merchants more on the SMB side of things. So less of the mid-market and definitely less enterprise, just because of our capacity and size. We know what we're good at. So we like to lean into that more. So some of our Shopify merchants are, starting at $0 startup basically, all the
Yep.
way up to maybe 2 to 5 million on online revenue. So definitely on the smaller side, as far as the Shopify ecosystem goes. But where we come in is we provide a solid structure and foundation for them to grow and build on. So we look at that in a few different areas. One of them is most importantly is the user experience, which is a lot of bunch of stuff all combined into one thing, but it's
Yep.
mainly around conversion focused user experience, which is the UX UI, CRO, other areas that all touch upon the user experience and how we can basically set them up for success. If they're a new brand, like I said, if they're a startup, or if they're in that sort of growth phase where they have that foundation and they're looking to kind of take that next step up, sort of like hypercharge their sales. And we always start with an audit and kind of get a lay of the land and understand where they're at and what they've done and where they want to be, basically. So we can help kind of predict and plan and create a blueprint of what that may look like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that size of business is well, two things here to unpack. One, I think it's like really rewarding. Like I can imagine from your side, and your team side, it's like so amazing when you take a merchant and
Yeah.
really hold their hand and get them from zero revenue up to, 1 million and beyond. I mean, I think that's such a rewarding experience. And I know that from my agency days that was actually what drove a lot of our team members and our staff was
Mhm.
seeing that progression for smaller merchants and brands really getting that awesome growth and helping them realize their dreams. So I take my
Yeah.
hat off to you for that. Um, I guess kind of second of all, what are some of the things that you see as being consistent across the board with these smaller brands that you're consistently doing, whether they're at zero revenue, whether they're at 3 million revenue? Like, what are some of the key things in the Shopify space you're seeing as being incredibly important?
I think the biggest thing that we always tend to see is overcomplication. And what I mean by that is too many apps installed on their Shopify store, too much going on in their homepage, their PDPs, their cart, whatever it is. They're overthinking the process. So we always come in and, like I said, we audit everything. We look under the hood, so to speak, of their theme. We do an app audit. We look at what types of apps they're using and what they're costing you, most importantly, to see if we can consolidate or do something custom one time. So you pay us for a couple hours of dev work or something, and then you're saving a couple $1,000 a month. And really, taking away and detracting from the robust experience that they've created. And when I say robust, I don't mean successfully robust. It's bloat basically. So a lot of merchants tend to get that like shiny object syndrome and start going crazy with installing apps, and obviously that's bogging down your site with speed and performance, which is where kind of Growave and a lot of tools out there come in of consolidating your tech stack basically to not only save money but also make your site faster from a speed and performance lens. So I think it's a lot of
Definitely.
overcomplication. So we tend to really come in as a neutral set of eyes and audit their stuff and come to them with a real honest opinion and say, you know what, we really need to improve sections ABC here because of our audits. And that's sort of we kind of come to the table with the roadmap of like what we're going to be doing for their monthly retainers if they already exist on Shopify.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. Is like, starting with a really solid base. Like, there's no point in giving yourself a disadvantage from the beginning by things like tech bloat and slowing down your site. But even also, like, I find more so at that SMB level, probably, more so than enterprise. It's like you really have to focus on where you're allocating those budgets and what is going to be the first lot of activity that you dedicate resource and budget to.
Yeah.
I think that's crucial. And unfortunately, sometimes with larger agencies, not all the time, not any partners of ours, but I just know this from being in the industry, is that they don't necessarily have that, very core focus of what's going to move the needle. It's like they want to offer everything so they can get the hours and billables for everything
Mhm.
versus in your position and a lot of our other partners where it's like we're really going to like focus on what moves the needle today and then we can look at some of those other services. So yeah, I think
Yep.
that's really critical. Marcus, tell me a little bit more. Two things I want to dive into here. One is I want to hear about, a recent win or kind of like a particular merchant that stands out to you in your portfolio. I know you work with a variety of verticals, but, a particular merchant that stands out to you on a success front. And then also I'd love to, after that, let's dive into your general partnerships kind of background and your focus on partnerships consultation as well.
Yeah, for sure. One client of ours that definitely sticks out, that she's been with us for at least a couple years now, is Unwilted, unwilted.com if you want to check her out. She does paper mache flowers, so flowers that will last forever, basically. They won't die.
Nice.
So she
Yep.
comes from a florist background and she started doing these like paper flowers and they're gorgeous bouquets. So obviously Mother's Day and holidays like that, and Valentine's Day are super popular for her. So there's spikes as well there with her sales volume. First of all, she's the nicest human being, so it's great to just work with people that are nice and that you enjoy working with. Second was, and this is a pattern that we've seen being our size agency and where we sit within the Shopify ecosystem. We see a lot of merchants coming to us from the Upwork, from the Fiverr world, or working with like solo freelancers, and they just haven't seen any success or haven't been happy with them. So it's a lot of like reactive behavior for us initially, then it turns proactive. So we're fixing a lot of issues. We're putting band-aids on things because things may be broken. It's the worst case scenario. Not all of them are like this, but in this case for Unwilted, she was just frustrated. We kind of came in, got some quick wins under our belt, build that trust and rapport with her. She's been a client for years, and now we've audited her tech stack. We've saved her thousands of dollars because we've consolidated some of her tools. She was using a very outdated like inventory management tool. So this is obviously the unsexy backend operational stuff of
Yeah.
Shopify. But
Yeah.
it's inevitable. You have to kind of talk about it, and you have to have an understanding of that stuff too, besides the cool front end stuff. So she was using an outdated inventory planning software. We got her going with Katana actually, which is a great inventory system for Shopify merchants. And yeah, she's been super happy with our recommendations. And I guess that's sort of a good segue into the partnership side of things, is having some background in the e-commerce partnership space. Obviously, like I can look at their site and do a lot of UX, UI, CRO stuff, but understanding which tools may fit well based on who the size of the merchant is and what the rest of their tech stack looks like, that's super important. And I'd see that as sort of one of our angles. Of course, there's tons of other agencies that have a really strong partnership team and partnership department, but I kind of tell that to a lot of merchants or even sales leads that are in our sales pipeline of, you're coming to us for some of the stuff that we'll fix for sure, like you came to us about, but we also have this other kind of extra value out of a really robust partnership system and program in place. So, I always kind of like to get a lay of the land of what their entire business looks like, not just like what are you using in your Shopify store, but what are all the things you're using in your warehouse, fulfillment, ERP, OMS, like all the e-commerce acronyms you can think of, like what are all those things, and basically building a profile for this merchant to say, all right, we have Unwilted, she's using ABCDE for all these tools. Now we can start to bring in some strategy to her and say, okay, well, you're using this tool, you could be using this other tool and replacing that, and it's a better experience, and they'll integrate better with this other tool that you're using, and really start to like add in that like more strategic, more robust value to them that they're not aware of, right? They're merchants. They come to us because we're the experts. So, you know,
Absolutely. And I think you've touched on a really good point there. It's like these merchants only know what they know, right? So it's
right.
like, they do a quick Google, they quickly implement something, or they've came from, as you said, their previous providers being Fiverr or a freelancer who may not have that extensive knowledge and network as such as someone yourself. So it's like
Mm,
they've put all these kind of band-aids in place, and then you're going through ripping off the band-aids and actually, fixing things properly. So
yeah.
yeah, I really like that approach, and I think it's critical. Segue into that, as you said, the partnerships kind of ecosystem. You've been
Mhm.
in that ecosystem for a minute, and I know that. What are the kind of core things that you like about that? Obviously, it really helps with perfect evolution, being able to say, I know the person at this company, and sometimes we can do things like, hey, here's an extended trial and things
Yeah.
like that help you out. But what are some of the other core sort of things that you really love about that partnership ecosystem?
Yeah. Personally, I love the sense of community. So there's sort of two angles that I look at it. One is what I personally like out of it and why I'm passionate about it and why I've been in this world for whatever 5, 6 years at this point now. And the other side of it is what I'm telling leads and merchants that I talk to, because like I said, it's an extra value add. So I personally enjoy the sense of community. I've made some really good friends in this e-commerce partnership world. So whenever we go to events and conferences, we bump into them, have some beers and tacos, whatever, and hang out. Like it's, your work can also be fun, and you can also build non-work relationships from work. And I don't tend to typically take that approach, but in this partnership world, it's such a small world. Once you're in it, you start to see all the same names and people at these events, and you start to build
Yes.
relationships. From going to, and
Yeah.
it's been great because again, it's all building this stronger community of partnerships, and it's helping each other. So even when I was in the agency space, I was friends with other people at other agencies, competitive
Yeah.
at agencies. But that's one side of it. The second side of it is that from a client side is I always say that because we have this really robust partnership program, we can give you this white glove treatment. We'll roll out the red carpet for you basically. And that falls in a couple different areas. One is we can potentially get you better pricing. So we can negotiate on your behalf to the tech partner and say, hey, they're going to sign a contract for whatever length, or, because we're a partner, we can negotiate for you. Like you said, extended free trials are also really helpful. Um, and also, escalated support tickets. So God forbid if something happens, instead of them reaching out to their, chatbot on the site or in the admin or whatever, we can reach out to our partner manager, get that ticket number escalated, whatever it may be. So there's definitely different value adds, and a lot of merchants our size, at least that we talk to, aren't familiar with like the partnership ecosystem that we have here. And that's, like I said, that's another value add as an agency versus just, okay, we have Shopify developers, we can do your development thing. It's very transactional in that sense, whereas now we're
Yes.
building long-term relationship with you.
Yeah, and you're adding more value. Like that's the thing I like to think of with
Hmm.
partnerships is it's like if you're adding more value to whoever it is that you're working with because of your extensive partner network. And I think
Yeah.
that is something that's really hard to necessarily quantify in like a dollar value, but in terms of like the value that that brings, it's immense, and sometimes it's priceless, in my opinion. I think you
Yeah.
know, I've found it as, particularly with Growave being a company that, comes from Central Asia that doesn't have a huge US presence,
Hmm.
but leverage it, being able to leverage my network and utilizing my network in Asia Pacific and the US. I've really
Hmm.
been able to leverage that to a degree that I think is almost priceless for Growave because I have the connections and I know the people and I have that partner network. So I
Yep.
think it works very much in an agency and very much in a tech capacity as well. But
Hmm.
to your point, at the end of the day, the connections that you make or that you have, that your merchants are benefiting from that directly, and your clients. And same with Growwave, it's like I'm able to cut through with the Clavio team a little bit quicker than if we went a traditional route, which in turn makes the product better for our customers. So it's really a win-win. It's a win-win for everyone, but in particular the merchants and the customers. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I really like that. You framed that very well. Cool. And, to that point, you spoke about the tacos and the travel. I really like to dive into this with all of our guests because, I mean, as well as I do, Marcus, we've seen each other probably, what, 3 times this year, all three in very different locations,
Hmm.
all of them centered around, partnerships and things that are going on in ecom and in our space.
Yeah.
What are the kind of, well, I've got two questions. I've started asking. There's one that I've asked since the inception of the podcast. I think we're up to we've recorded about 30 of these, but I've also started introducing a new question in the last couple of episodes I've recorded. So my first one is, what is one thing that you can't travel without? And I'll use mine as an example just to fuel the conversation. But this is like a travel battery for laptop, phone,
Hmm.
everything. A lot of people are like, it's clear we can't live without our phones and our laptops, particularly in our space.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
tried probably, I think this would be my 10th one,
Yes.
10th different battery over the years, just because
Yeah.
it's something I've always traveled with, whether it be for work or personal travel. But
Hmm.
this is by far the best one I found. It's called Outdoor Battery. It's like waterproof. It's been really, really good to me. I think it's like held its battery life the longest so far.
Mm.
So they're doing something different than their competition. But it's also, I feel, in a shape where I'm not going to lose it, right? Like it's not a real square little slim thing that I might lose. This, I know when I've got it, it's relatively heavy and robust. But that's my thing I personally can't travel without, whether it's personal or business. But what's yours, Marcus?
I like that. It looked like a pair of binoculars when you were showing me.
Yeah,
I was going
a
to
little
Google
bit.
so that your binoculars. Um, the obvious answer here, I was thinking about this, was my 11-month-old was the obvious answer. Like I can't live without it, right? But I think you mean an item, so I'll say that.
Yeah, item not person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my trusty espresso machine that I have upstairs that I use every morning, I'd say I can't live without that. I mean, I can obviously,
Nice.
but it's a nice thing to have. It's a nice luxury to have, and I use it every day, and it's a valuable tool that contributes to my success every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, your merchants or your clients should be sponsoring that for you because
Yes, sir.
espresso is the key to success.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I My wife recently bought this fancy espresso machine, but it does like nitro cold
Mhm.
brews and nitro espressos. Um, I don't even want to think about how much it was, but it's really cool. I piggyback off that, so
Nice.
I've become responsible for purchasing the pods because I have about three of them a day versus her having one
Hmm.
in the morning. So, but yeah, I agree. I'm a big coffee fan. I find, especially coming from Australia, we have such good coffee over there. So
Yeah.
it's nice to know that the US is finally caught up. I used to struggle coming here, 10 years, 15 years ago when it wasn't as good as what it is now, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Awesome, man. Well, look, really great, conversation here today. I think the audience would have got a lot of value out of that, really understanding everything about you and what you do at Perfect Evolution. But I would love to, ensure that the audience can stay connected with you, Marcus, and follow your journey. And if we have a lot of SMB merchants that are probably a really good ICP fit for you.
Great.
So I would encourage them to certainly be in contact with you. But what's the best way, is there something you want to offer the audience, or what's the best way for people to connect with you, Marcus? And I'll make sure that's all included in the show notes.
Cool. Yeah, there's two ways. You can go to perfectevolution.com, hit up the contact form. I see those emails that come in. I'll reply to you there, or hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to find me. You can search my name. I won't try to spell it out. If you respond to me, if you reach out and you say, I heard you on the Growave podcast, I'll give you a complimentary Shopify website audit. It's going to be very high
Oh,
level, but
nice.
we'll we'll produce a report. Just send me your website URL. That's all you got to do, and give me a couple days to a week or whatever. We'll get back to you. And I guarantee you there'll be stuff in there that I can pinpoint and I can call out, and it'll be a good agenda for the conversation that we can have and how we can help you.
Amazing, amazing. That's very kind of you, Marcus. I appreciate that. And as I mentioned, I'll make sure your LinkedIn profile, Perfect Evolution's website, and your contact email address are all included in the show notes. But yeah, look, I very much value our partnership. I very much value what you do for your clients. I definitely love your partnership insights. I think you continue to add a lot of value and contribute to that space. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for your partnership, Marcus, and we hope to continue to do a lot of work together. And hope next year, in 12 months' time, we can talk about some of the things that we're working on together and dive into them a little bit deeper. But wishing
Yeah.
you nothing but more success, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Joe.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus. Audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. As promised, I'll make sure that all of the show notes, the show notes include Marcus's contact details. You can reach him at perfectevolution.com, as well as follow him on LinkedIn. So that'll all be in the show notes. But thank you again, audience, for tuning in to another episode. We love having you here. If there's any particular guest that you would love to see come on the show, please comment below or send me through an email, joe.fox@growave.io. I try and respond to every single email I get, unless it's consistent spam. Anyway, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you very shortly.